Hello and welcome to another edition of Tuesday Talks. Thank you again for tuning in. And today I've got a bit of a different episode as to the last one with Jacob Scott appearing on the channel this time. Jacob Scott is someone that I followed on LinkedIn for some time, 21 years old, but he's very wise beyond his years. Has built up a big following of people on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, you name it, he's on there, and he's posts quite regularly, all stuff to do with motivational quotes, helping out people that are younger, and we also discuss Men's Mental Health Month as well. So we take on a wide range of topics, and here is our chat with me and Jacob Scott.
So Jacob, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. First question really is along the lines of, well, I've started a new YouTube channel, you've started going full-time with your content creation. What fueled your idea to do so?
Yeah, so no, thank you very much for having me. So yeah, I a little while ago acquired my first Instagram page. It was already started by somebody else, but they were in a bit of a lull, and you could sort of see that the page was spiraling sort of out of control in a bad way. They were losing a lot of followers, and they just wanted rid of it, essentially. So I took it off their hands for a good cheap price, put it that way, and sort of from there started to grow it over time, and have managed to take it from, I think it was at something like 400,000 views per month, and now we've got it over, I think it's 11 point something million. So it's really gone up quite considerably. And because their numbers were starting to spiral, I sort of realized, hold up here, there's a bit of an opportunity here. And along with getting a few other Instagram accounts and starting to grow my own ones out, I was like, I think now is the time to move. And I was in a job as well, which was a bit of a dead end job, to be honest with you. So I wanted out of that, and I wanted to start focusing on the thing that I think could be sort of the future for myself.
Because when you have that sort of like crossroads in your life, you said where you were in a job that you didn't enjoy, but then you also have something else in mind that you want to do, that you want to pursue, that you actually enjoy. What is the main step for then having that confidence to then go and make that jump? Because I was kind of in that decision myself, and I guess, well, we'll get onto it about my choice, but I want to hear from your perspective first.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting one. I'm usually not the most confident person in the world. I think I have a belief in my own ability to do things, but actually showing other people that I sometimes struggle with a little bit. So it was being pushed a little bit by my girlfriend, and just I think I had to see the numbers first before I could then in my head compute that actually this is the right decision to make. And it's definitely not something that I could have made like in the future, knowing that this would then happen, if that makes any sense. I needed to see the results before I could make that leap and make that jump, because otherwise, God, yeah, yeah, it's definitely not a confidence thing. It's definitely other people telling me, no, this is probably the right step to make, and you can do it. You just gotta keep working at it, basically.
Just being able to see that tangible progress like within the numbers, and then you
Yes,
can base it off of that pretty much.
exactly.
Yeah. In terms of the experiences that have molded you into the person that you are today, what would you say has impacted you from earlier life to the way that you operate now?
Yeah, no, I think, I mean, if we're going all the way back to like childhood and stuff, I had quite a messy childhood. We lived in loads of different houses and all this sort of stuff. So I think that kind of, I think I grew up quite quickly in that aspect. And then I went straight into work after school and have had experiences like being made redundant in that time and worked in different teams. So you start to, well, I've also worked jobs. I think I've had my first job when I was like 12, and I've always pretty much had a job since then. So I think you grow up quite quickly, and you sort of realize, okay, if I'm going to actually want to make something work in this world, I'm going to have to put the time and effort into it. So that's why for a while I was doing the social media stuff and working 4 days a week. It was five for a little while, but 4 days a week. And yeah, I think it is just that sense of having to grow up quite quickly makes you work your tits off, basically. It makes you work harder. It makes you, you know, yeah, get things done. And especially with the social media sort of stuff, I think it comes down to consistency. And if you don't have that mindset of I need to do this regularly and I need to stay on it regularly, and it doesn't matter if I don't want to do it in a day, and it doesn't matter if I do want to do it in a day, whatever happens, I've just got to go do it. Does that make any sense? So I think, yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, I definitely think working from a young age really ingrains that into you.
It's great to hear that you have that like determination about you, and I guess the mindset of always staying active as well. That's something that I've learned that works best for
Mm.
me. Where if I'm working towards something all the time, then my mind's in a good place where I have a goal in mind, and each day I'm trying to take the steps to reach that goal.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I think it's what you got to be working towards something. Like at the minute, I'm in a really, I cannot get my head into the going to the gym. I just can't do it. I love doing exercise, but at the minute I just can't go into the gym, and it's because I don't have a goal in my head that I need to work towards. So that's what I'm trying to come up with at the minute. I need a reason to go and do these things. Especially like a numerical reason is usually the best thing for me because then it's a target you can sort of work towards. I can't just go, right, I'm going to go to the gym every day. I need a reason to go to the gym every day, if that makes any sense. And it's the same with
Yeah,
social media.
yeah, I completely get you with that. And like, I was kind of in a similar position to you as well, where like with the gym, it's that thing about, oh, do I go, do I not? And then, as you said earlier, about doing it when you don't want to. But the thing that actually worked for me quite a lot is running. And I done a half marathon earlier this year, and you've done a full marathon.
Nice.
So double what I did this year. And yeah, how did you find that experience?
Horrible. It is horrible. No, to be honest, the half, I wish in hindsight, I probably did just do a half because I've really enjoyed the half. It was really nice. And then as soon as I crossed over, I was like, God, I've got to do another one then now. It just, my legs went, and honestly, it was hard. But I think it's one of them things. Like I posted on my LinkedIn a little while ago. It's just all about compounding, right? Because I had a few injuries in the lead up to the marathon, and I wasn't feeling very well either. But at the back of my head, I did have the thing of like, right, but you have done over, I think at that point, I'd done over like 400 and something kilometers already this year. So I'd done the work. It may have only just been in like 5 and 10K runs, but that adds up over time, if that makes sense. So I think that it again comes back to that consistency, right? If you keep over time working at something, eventually you can run a half marathon in your case, or you can run a marathon in my case, or you can build up an Instagram for whatever it might be. You just got to stay consistent with it, and it definitely came. It was like that. I was running anyway for me anyway.
And I suppose, well, you mentioned that measurable progress, and you said there about the 400K that you've run and being able to see the numbers in front of you, that definitely works for
Yeah.
you.
Oh yeah, I'm a numbers guy. I'm absolutely a numbers guy. Yeah, I need to see that. And like earlier this year, I done something called Project 50, where I said to myself, right, 50 days, you got to eat clean, you got to go to the gym every single day, and you've got to post on social media every single day. Essentially, was the premise of it. And by having the number goal and tracking it every single day, it then allows me to stay in the mindset of, okay, well, I've only got 20 days left. You know what I mean? Whereas I think when I do just struggle when it's like a slog of, right, I'm going to the gym again today, and I'm going to the gym again today. And there's no sort of, I have to track everything I'm doing, especially like, I say, numbers based, because otherwise I can't motivate myself to do it.
And you said about there going to the gym every day and posting on social media each day. And I remember on LinkedIn seeing your posts about monitoring your progress. Is that a part of social media that benefits you in terms of, giving back to the people and showing people that if you can do it, then anybody else can do it as well?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, no, I'm going to be completely honest. I'm nothing special, right? And I haven't got anywhere near the goals and objectives that I've actually set for myself. So it feels mental even saying that to me, but I appreciate it. But I think, yeah, oh my God, anyone can absolutely do it. Like, I, with social media, for example, I've grown up on social media. I've always I've watched YouTube. That was my go-to growing up, and Instagram was my go-to growing up. So just by being on their maps, I learned so much over them years that it felt like the natural thing to do to go on social media. But that doesn't mean that I had an insight on it that anyone else doesn't. I knew the most basic stuff, and the only way I learned how to do it was by doing it. My first Instagram posts are horrendous. Honestly, I go back and look at them sometimes. I'm like, oh my God, what was I doing? Like, it's so bad. But the only way you get better is by doing the thing, right?
Exactly, and pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. I think that's something
Mm.
that works quite well as well. And as you said about looking back on your old stuff and cringing at it, I mean, I'll probably do that with this YouTube channel. But as you said, there's only one way to find out by, doing the work
Mm.
yourself and then looking back on it. But then at least saying that you took that decision to make, videos or do whatever you pursue.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. It's the only way to progress in the thing you want to do. And like we're saying social media stuff, it literally is anything, right? If you want to become a better plumber, I'm sure the first plumbing job you done, you'll look at it and go, God, what was I doing compared to your 500th, right? It's just the same. And whatever you do, again, it comes back to that compounding thing of you will get better over time and you will see the results improving.
And when you started out, you said you had a basic knowledge of social media and everything. What were the main barriers to start off with, and maybe barriers that you're facing today, even with the knowledge that you've gained?
I think, yeah. So on my personal social media, I think starting out is so hard. I really am struggling to grow it for my personal like LinkedIn and sorry, personal Instagram and TikTok. I just can't get the followers, which is fine because I get these things take time. So that's what I just need. I'm trying to teach myself. But so I think that's the hardest barrier. I think it's starting out doing it organically rather than, some people will start out and they've got 50 grand in the bank, they can just pump into into views and they'll grow a following off that, which is brilliant. But for someone who's trying to do it organically, it's so tough. And I think, yeah, to build up that following, once you get the following, you're fine because it will grow and it will spiral and it will. So what I'm finding on one of my football pages at the minute, in the space of a month, I think I've gained like 40,000 followers, which is like I can't even comprehend the numbers on that. So it's ridiculous. But on my personal page, I think in the last 8 months of posting on there, I think I've gained 40 followers. And so it's just that starting point. Once you get past that starting point, and like I say, the followers start to add up, then you're fine. You're away.
That seems to be the case, doesn't it, with a lot of stuff on social media and in general, you're either up here or you're down there, aren't you?
Yeah,
And there
it's
doesn't
one
really
or the
seem to
other.
be much in between, is there?
Yeah.
And with all these learning curves, how close would you say you are to the goals that you've set yourself?
Oh, miles off. Absolutely miles off. I'm so aware of the fact that I'm 21. So I set my goals so high because I know if I keep doing it and it adds up over time, there's no reason why I can't hit the goals in my head. I and not even on my head. I'm starting to write them down, which I'm finding is key. I've been told by some important people in my life, write them down so then you can visualize them and you can over time see your progress of working towards them. But yeah, absolutely nowhere near, and that's great. I'd rather be nowhere near my goals. Like I say, at my age, which I'm so aware of my age, like I'd rather be nowhere near my goals than already hitting them and being like, oh my God, what do I do now?
Exactly. I think you're still yet to recognize your ceiling. And this is something
Mm,
that I kind of learned when I was the same age as you, actually, when I came out of my undergraduate degree, where I had a sort of plan in my mind about where I wanted to be by that age and what I wanted to be doing. But life is so unpredictable, isn't it? And you can never foresee what turn it's going to take because, as I said, coming out of university, especially for a lot of people, even listening to this podcast, could be where they wanted to do something, but not perhaps got the breakthrough yet. And a lot of job rejections and a lot of setbacks. But it is that thing of keeping that goal in mind. And if you still have that goal in mind, then you've got every chance of achieving it because you can still see it in the distance, which means you still have faith in what you're able to do.
yeah, 100%. I mean, even what I'm doing now with the social media stuff, like I've almost fell into it. Like it wasn't a conscious decision of I'm going to start making social media content. Like the only reason I started making content on my personal page in the beginning was because I was like, well, if I have some followers, that means it'll be easier for me to start like a business in the long term because I'll have this pool of people I can instantly just dish it out to. And that was the only reason I started making content in the beginning. I think along that way, like you say, I've been rejected so many times. I've been rejected so many times, whether it's, oh my God, like doing collabs with people, whether it's I've applied for so many jobs. I reckon I've got the record of a 21-year-old for applying for jobs and not getting them, honestly. Because there's no one's going to hire me because I've got no sort of credibility, if that makes sense. I've worked jobs, but I've never been to uni or anything like that, like yourself. Um, so yeah, yeah, like you say, but they also mold you, right? And they unlock paths. So if I'd have got a job, say a couple of months ago, doing something I didn't really want to do, but I was like, well, it's for a company that I've heard of and I can get into the team and I can work my way up, then I might not end up doing the social media stuff now, if that makes any sense. So it is what it is, right? You get rejections along the way, but if you can sort of use them as fuel to drive your career, then yeah, progress will be made.
And I think that sparks a conversation as well about not selling yourself short and believing in your capabilities and who you are despite the rejections and not to take them personally.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more with that.
And not to let it affect your character as well, because yeah, I mean, you speak so well for a 21-year-old, Jacob. I wish I had your wisdom when I was that age, to be honest, because by that age, I mean, I was kind of in the self-destruct mode, not going to lie. And that kind of links on to my next point about Men's Mental Health Month this month. And I think it's so important to raise this topic in this conversation because I know that you post a lot of stuff about well-being and mental health, and what
Yeah.
impact has that had on your life, and what experiences have you had, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, no. So I think I had some stuff when I was a teenager that sort of just stuck with me, and I, for a long time, just couldn't get rid of it. Um, stuff at home, different bits and bobs like that. And it was only, I think, at the start of 2023, I want to say, where I became aware of these things. And I was a bit overweight at the time as well. So I set in my mind, I was like, all right, I'm going to start going to the gym. I'm going to start losing weight. I've got these goals for losing weight, but also I'm going to start seeing a therapist. And them two things went hand in hand. And the difference the fitness made was unbelievable. But the difference sorting out your mental health is so much bigger. It's unbelievable. And without that, like I don't even know, I don't think I'd be on the same path now if I hadn't have sorted out my mind from stuff that was sort of nagging at me from years before. I think it's so essential for any, and if anyone is sort of struggling in that aspect, the best, and I know therapists are slightly expensive and they are for some people unaffordable, and I completely appreciate that. But if you can afford it, 100%, best thing you can do. Best thing you can do.
Because when I was sort of 21, 22, I was in CBT, which is like cognitive behavioral therapy, and
Mhm.
that kind of stuff, it releases a lot of emotions, doesn't it, when you speak out loud about what you're experiencing, and sometimes that
Yeah.
can unlock emotions that you're suppressing for so long, but then to actually get it out into the open can be a good thing, because penned up emotions very rarely leads to anything good, I feel. And the more
Yeah.
you release them and communicate and talk to people that you trust and you love, then you're on the right track, really.
Yeah, and I think I completely agree. I think if you hold anything against anyone, it will only ever hurt yourself. I don't think revenge or, revenge is a silly word, but I don't think any sort of form of, like you say, pent up aggression or anger towards anyone or anything, like you say, ever leads to anything good. I think you can use certain past experiences to fuel your future. I think if you, it's the whole thing of like either being pushed or pulled, right? Like pushed by motivation and I want to do this, this, and this in your career, or are you being pulled? Your past experiences are making you subconsciously do the things because you're trying to prove to someone maybe from 10 years ago who said you can't do it. You know what I mean? So I think that can be useful. I just think you've got to try and make it not toxic. If you're aware of the things that are pulling you in a certain direction, I think that's okay. But like you say, if it's aggressive or if it's leading to any bad behaviors or anything like that, then yeah, try and talk to someone is the best thing you could do.
And your point there about using past experiences, I think you can absolutely use it to fuel yourself, but the main motivation I think is to do it for yourself, isn't it? And
Yeah,
to make yourself feel better. So yeah,
yeah,
I think you're absolutely right on that, because I can recall some moments in my life, say for instance, my English language teacher laughing at me when I told her that I was doing it for A levels and now I've got a master's degree in journalism. So there you go. It's
yeah,
just that thing of
literally.
thinking back to the moments and thinking I proved you wrong. But yeah, like your running has that improved your mental health, because you can also communicate and as well as do physical activity, and physical activity is something that I found is really good for my mental health, especially running. And then when you get back home, you never feel worse after it, do you?
No, people talk about running and it sort of scares some people maybe, and they're like, I can't do that. Honestly, even just going for a walk, I've never once been for a walk in my life and came home feeling worse. Like you say, going outside and just letting off some steam and getting them positive endorphins going. There's never ever a bad walk or run. I mean, if you snap your leg on the run, I'm sure that wouldn't be the best. But in general, you always feel better, like you say. And I that's why I think I'm struggling a little bit with the gym at the minute because I find the gym, you go into this dark, dingy room, and yes, you're doing exercise, but I think it's not the same. I think getting outside and hearing the natural noises, if you can go out into the actual countryside and stuff like that, yeah, it makes such a difference to your mental health, and it's such a good thing.
I think you can add social elements to it as well. So, say for instance, if you want to do like physical activity, then even things like if you play football, five-a-side,
Yeah.
seven-a-side, I
Oh yeah.
found is so good for me, and like
Yeah.
you have such a good laugh with your mates as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think especially with something like that for me anyway, because I love the like tactical element of football, right? It gets your brain going as well and constantly thinking about where to be positioned and that kind of thing, but also without realizing it. Like you say, you've got the outside element, you've got the social element, you've got the physical element. Yeah, something like that's absolutely perfect.
I leave the tactical side of five-a-side to my younger brother because he's like a football coach. Whenever he
Nice.
turns up with us, he's like playing centre back and he's just orchestrating everything and like moving everyone around, even though they're like 2, 3 years older than him because he's got a
I like
coaching
it.
background. He likes to immerse himself in it.
Oh yeah, no, I've got a coaching background as well, so I absolutely love it. That's yeah, it's the best. It's the absolute best.
And in terms of other stuff that sort of improved your mental health, you said that, well, I've seen your LinkedIn about when you go to watch Norwich City play and just going to do different things on the weekends as well. Like, how much does that improve your mental health? I mean, when Norwich are winning, that is.
The last game we had against Bristol City didn't help my mental health, but in
First home
general,
loss in a year, wasn't it? So, yeah, not
yes,
a
it
great one to
was.
bring up,
Yeah,
but.
no, absolutely not. No, but even in general, like I got home and you take the result aside, don't you? But I went with my mate and we had a nice day out and we just chatted and it's just nice. It's something really nice about going to the football or yeah, I used to like I said, I used to do coaching for under sevens and that was so lovely. And you get back and some mornings you wake up and you're like, God, I can't be bothered to do that on a cold morning. You're like, but you go and you do it, and you get home, and again, it's similar to going for a run. I never once came home going, "Oh, that was awful." Like, it's yeah, and it's the same with going for the football. Like I say, if you can set aside the result, which sometimes can be hard to do if you get smashed at home or whatever, but I think in general, yeah, it's such a positive thing, and it's the social element of it as well.
And finally, to cap off this topic, what is the one bit of advice you'd give to someone that perhaps is struggling with their mental health at the moment?
Yeah, talk to someone. I think it all comes down to talking to someone. I think as soon as you can talk to someone, you can then I think the sky's the limit then. It's just getting that weight off your shoulders, which I think a lot of people, I don't want to make it a sexist thing either, but I think a lot of time men have a real issue talking about it as well. And I think if a young guy, because obviously that's my experience, so I'll use my own experience, if a young guy can get that off his chest, it makes 1,000,000% of difference. And it's something that I think is being talked about more now, which is great. But I think in general, for a while, no one would mention, and it was a bit of a weird thing to talk about was your mental health. But if you just find someone to talk about, whether it doesn't matter who, it literally doesn't matter who it is. If it's someone who is completely unrelated to it, if it's someone who is, if it's a family member, if it's a friend, if it's a paid therapist, whatever, just talking to someone makes you feel so much better.
And another bit of advice relating to that I'd add onto it is that you're never a burden to anybody else for voicing your problems, because
Oh
I think
no,
that was one of the things that I struggled with, perhaps, when you discuss your feelings with other people and you think that they don't want to hear it. But, the people that really love you and trust you and that, then they do want to hear your problems and be able to resolve it with you and work as one to try and get to the bottom of it. It's a really important issue to discuss, and I'm thankful that we discussed it and you spoke so well on it, Jacob. And I mean, finally, to cap off this talk, I just want to sort of ask you about one quote that you've heard, or one quote that you've posted that you've had like the most positive reaction to, because I see on your timeline there's a lot of different things from different people that you share. So what's one that sticks with you the most?
screenshot on my phone ready. Yeah, no, the one I always love, and I have a few that I sort of circle a lot, and I'll post on my stories and stuff like that because I are really meaningful to me. But it's the one I love the most is always if someone is trying to bring you down, they're already below you, and I just love that because especially with social media, I think you get so many like horrible people. Like it's crazy on my TikTok, for example. I don't even think I have 200 followers on TikTok, but on my personal one, but I get people regularly commenting horrible things. And you're like, oh my word, this is just ridiculous. But then you just got to take a step back and think, right, well, they cannot be in a good place and they are not bringing any positivity. So there's no reason to even let them in, if that makes any sense, and let them bother you because you're in my case anyway, especially when I try and make some like mental health sort of stuff and some positivity sort of stuff sometimes, mixed in with a bit more football stuff now. But when I make them the mental health and positivity kind of stuff, and I get a negative comment on there, I'm like, I am not listening to this, because you're not right. I know you're clearly not right. You're clearly not correct with the things you're saying, and you're not bringing any positivity to this conversation. So yeah, I think just trying to block out the noise. And if you're doing something that you know is best for you, whether that's a career path and you might have a family member telling you it's not the right career path to go down, or if you're trying something new, or if you're worried about your sexuality or anything like that, really, just block out the noise, because you know within yourself if you're correct, and it doesn't matter what anyone else says, because even if you fail, it's a learned experience. And people just can't seem to sometimes cope with that. And I think if you, again, are trying something new and you're getting negativity towards it, sometimes people might just be jealous as well. And that's okay. That's for them to figure out. You keep doing what you're doing. As someone who's been making social media content now for a little while, I have received loads of backlash for lots of my content and have had loads and loads of negativity. I think hate comments now are becoming more normalised for some reason, and people do it way more regularly than they used to anyway. But if you're receiving them, then this is my advice to you. I think the first thing to do is to differentiate what the difference is between constructive criticism and just a hate comment. If it is constructive criticism, it probably is worth listening to. But really, and I'm going to say this genuinely, I think most of the time you don't get constructive criticism on your content. I think that is a really, really rare thing. So if you do get that, I would take that really, really positively, because you've actually got quite a good audience that feel like they can be honest with you. But most of the time it is just someone hating on your content for no reason. So if you are getting these sorts of comments, you've just got to try and block out the noise, and remember that these people must be going through some hard times in their personal life to feel a need to leave a horrible comment on your piece of content. Remember, most of these comments only come from a place of jealousy. So these people are just really wanting to be you, and they can't be because they don't have the confidence to be you. So they'll leave a horrible comment in response to that. You're doing great, you're creating great content, and they just don't like that. So remember that, keep making the content and block out the noise. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you so much, Jacob. And finally, one thing I'll ask people at the end of each edition of these podcasts is one person that I should speak to after this. I want to try and grow the podcast, expand it, get it to as many people as possible. So is there anybody that you have in mind that I should try and approach to speak to?
Yeah, you got try and I'll try and help if you need. A man called Chris Rave. He makes Norwich City content, and he is amazing at talking on this sort of subject, and he likes football as well. So yeah, Chris Rave. He runs the Talk Norwich City football channels.
And that was my chat there with Jacob Scott, someone that was so insightful and spoke really well on a number of serious topics to do with himself and also mental health as well. And I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, and stick around for the next one.